My name is Lucille, and I am 67 years old. I spent 35 years in my beautiful suburban home, raising my daughter Amanda as a single mother after my husband passed away. I sacrificed everything for her education and career, working multiple jobs to give her the best life possible. Never did I imagine that one day I would overhear a phone conversation that would shatter my world. My own daughter forgot to hang up the phone, and I heard her say, "He has to go to a nursing home." Then they planned to sell my house for $890,000. Before I tell you what happened when they returned from their business trip and found my note, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button to join our community of real-life storytellers. After my husband Tom died of a sudden heart attack when Amanda was only 7 years old, I found myself alone with mortgage bills and a young child who needed stability. Our home was a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in a friendly neighborhood, with tree-lined streets and excellent schools. Tom and I had purchased it with dreams of filling it with children and laughter, but fate had other plans. I refused to let our dreams die completely. To keep our home, I worked as an elementary school teacher during the day and took on bookkeeping jobs in the evenings and weekends. There were times when exhaustion overwhelmed me, but the thought of Amanda having to leave her friends and school kept me going. I wanted her to have the security I never had growing up. Our neighborhood was special, the kind where people brought casseroles when someone was sick and watched out for each other's children. Mrs. Patterson next door became like a grandmother to Amanda, watching her after school until I could get home from work. The annual block parties, Halloween celebrations, and holiday gatherings created a sense of belonging that helped heal our broken hearts after Tom's death. Amanda had everything I could possibly provide: piano lessons, summer camps, dance classes, and eventually a full ride to college thanks to both her academic achievements and my careful saving. I remember the pride I felt watching her walk across the stage at graduation, knowing Tom would have been so proud too. When I finally retired at 62 with minor arthritis in my knees and back, I felt I had earned my rest. The mortgage was paid off and I had a modest pension plus Tom's life insurance investments that would see me through my golden years. I wasn't wealthy, but I was comfortable and independent. My home had appreciated significantly over the decades, but selling it never crossed my mind. This was our family home filled with memories in every corner. Amanda married Jacob when she was 35. He was a successful financial advisor with a sharp mind for business and money. Handsome and charming at family gatherings, something about him always felt calculating to me, though I kept those thoughts to myself. Amanda was in love, and I wanted her happiness above all else. In the beginning, our relationship remained close. Sunday dinners, holiday celebrations, and regular phone calls kept us connected. But gradually, things began to change. Amanda's visits became less frequent. Our conversations shifted from personal matters to superficial small talk. I noticed how Jacob would look around my home with appraising eyes, commenting on property values in the neighborhood, rather than asking about my well-being. I told myself I was imagining things, that their busy careers were the reason for the growing distance, that Jacob's interest in real estate was just professional curiosity. I refused to see the warning signs because the alternative was too painful to consider. My own daughter could not possibly be plotting against me, or so I thought. The first clear indication that something wasn't right came during a Sunday dinner at my house about 8 months ago. Amanda and Jacob had been showing up more frequently, which initially delighted me. I spent hours preparing Tom's famous pot roast recipe, hoping to recreate the warm family dinners of Amanda's childhood. As we sat around the dining table, Jacob casually mentioned that a house down the street had sold for $800,000. "Can you believe it, Lucille? Your home must be worth even more given the corner lot and extra square footage." Amanda quickly added, "Mom, have you thought about whether this place is becoming too much for you to manage? The stairs, the yard work, all that cleaning." I looked at my daughter, confused by her concern. I have a gardener for the heavy yard work, and I can still manage the stairs just fine. This house keeps me active. But what about the future? Jacob pressed, cutting into his pot roast without looking up. You're not getting any younger, Lucille. There was something in his tone that made me pause. The way he said my name felt oddly formal, distancing, not like family at all. Later that week, Amanda stopped by unexpectedly with a stack of glossy brochures. I was just driving past this new retirement community and picked these up. The units look really nice, and they have activities, a dining hall, and medical staff on site. I flipped through the brochures, noting the institutional feel, despite the upscale marketing. This is very thoughtful, Amanda, but I am nowhere near needing this kind of place. Just keep them, Mom, she insisted, placing them prominently on my coffee table. It never hurts to plan ahead. My friend Maria noticed the brochures during our weekly card game and raised an eyebrow. After the others left, she stayed behind, concern etched on her face. Lucille, be careful, she warned, keeping her voice low as though Amanda might somehow overhear. My sister went through this with her son. Started with brochures, ended with her being moved against her wishes while they sold her house from under her. I laughed off her concern. Amanda would never do that. She knows how much this home means to me. Besides, the house will be hers eventually anyway. Maria didn't seem convinced. Just watch yourself. Keep your important papers somewhere safe. I dismissed her warnings as paranoia, but they planted a seed of unease I couldn't quite shake. 2 weeks later, I had a minor fall in the garden. Nothing serious, just a twisted ankle that looked worse than it was. Amanda happened to call while I was icing it, and I mentioned it casually. Within an hour, she and Jacob were at my door, insisting on taking me to the emergency room, despite my protests. The doctor confirmed it was just a mild sprain, but Amanda seized on the incident. Mom, this is exactly what we've been worried about. What if you had broken your hip? What if you couldn't reach the phone? But I didn't, and I could. I pointed out, increasingly frustrated by her catastrophizing. For the next several days, Amanda called multiple times daily, asking about my ankle, whether I'd considered those retirement communities, if I needed help with downsizing. The concern would have been touching if it hadn't felt so agenda-driven. When my ankle healed completely within 2 weeks, Amanda seemed almost disappointed during her visit. She walked through my home, suggesting which furniture might not fit in a smaller place. Jacob took photos of my living room with his phone, claiming he wanted to show a colleague the beautiful crown molding. I began to wonder if Maria might have been right after all. It was a Tuesday afternoon in April when everything changed. The cherry blossoms were in full bloom outside my kitchen window as I prepared a cup of tea. My phone rang and Amanda's name appeared on the screen. Hi, Mom, she said, sounding rushed. Just checking in. Jacob and I are planning to visit this weekend. Is that okay? Of course, I replied, happiness bubbling up at the prospect of seeing her. I'll make your favorite lasagna. Great, she said distractedly. Sorry, Mom. Jacob's calling. I need to take this. Talk later. I heard rustling, then silence, but the call hadn't ended. I was about to hang up when I heard Amanda's voice again now, with a completely different tone. Hey, babe. No, just got off with her. Yeah, we're all set for Saturday. I should have hung up. I knew I was eavesdropping, but something kept my finger from pressing the button. I know it's taking forever, Amanda continued, frustration evident. He has to go to a nursing home. There's no other option at this point. My heart froze at her words. Was she talking about me, referring to her own mother as he, as though I were some inconvenient object? The real estate agent says we could list it for $890,000 minimum. Jacob's voice came through slightly distant, as though on speakerphone. Maybe more if we do some quick renovations after she's out. That neighborhood is red hot right now. That's more than we expected. Amanda sounded pleased. We could pay off our debt and still have enough for the vacation home in Florida. Exactly. But first, we need to get her settled somewhere. Did you call those places I sent you? Yeah, Amanda sighed heavily. Golden Sunset has an opening next month. It's not the nicest, but it's all we can afford if we want to maximize what we get from the house. She doesn't need fancy, she'll adjust. I know. I just wish she'd cooperate. All this resistance is making it so much harder than it needs to be. Jacob laughed coldly. She thinks she's going to live in that house until she dies, as if we'd let all that equity just sit there while we're trying to build our future. She's always been sentimental about that place, Amanda said. Goes on and on about Dad and their dreams. It's just a house. A house worth nearly $1 million, Jacob corrected. Look, your mom had her life. Now it's our turn. The market won't stay this hot forever. I know you're right. Saturday we'll push harder about the nursing home angle. I've been researching what to say. Apparently, if we focus on safety concerns and repeat them enough, it creates doubt in their minds. Good strategy. We need to be united on this. No showing weakness, or she'll never agree. Don't worry. I've accepted that this is necessary. Mom will be fine once she adjusts. People adapt. My teacup clattered against the saucer as my hands began to shake uncontrollably. I must have made a noise because there was a sudden pause in their conversation. Wait, is that still connected? Amanda's voice sharpened with alarm. Mom, are you there? I quickly pressed the end call button, then sank into my kitchen chair, the phone falling from my trembling fingers. The room spun around me. My own daughter. My Amanda. The little girl I had sacrificed and everything for now plotting to throw me away like garbage while stealing my home for her own financial gain. The betrayal cut so deep I could barely breathe through the pain. Tears streamed down my face as their cold, calculating words replayed in my mind. He has to go to a nursing home. We could list it for $890,000. It's just a house. Your mom had her life. Now it's our turn. For hours, I sat there unable to move, unable to process the complete shattering of my reality. The home that held every precious memory of my life with Tom, of raising Amanda, of building community and belonging, was nothing but a dollar sign to them. And I was nothing but an obstacle to be removed. When darkness fell, one thought crystallized through my grief and shock. They believed the house would automatically be theirs to sell. But was that actually true? I barely slept that night, my mind racing with fragments of the conversation I'd overheard. By morning, determination had replaced the initial shock. Before taking any action, I needed to understand exactly where I stood legally. I called Frank Donovan, the attorney who had handled Tom's estate and had been a friend to our family for decades. His secretary seemed to hear the urgency in my voice and squeezed me in for an appointment that afternoon. Frank's office hadn't changed much over the years. Wood-paneled walls lined with law books, a comfortable leather chair that creaked as he leaned forward, concern evident behind his reading glasses. Lucille, what's going on? You sounded upset on the phone. I took a deep breath and recounted everything from the subtle hints to the devastating phone conversation. Frank listened without interrupting, his expression darkening. Before we discuss anything else, I said when I finished, I need to know, can Amanda sell my house? Frank removed his glasses, polishing them thoughtfully. Absolutely not. The house is entirely in your name, Lucille. Tom made sure of that. Relief washed over me. She has no legal claim to it while I'm alive. None whatsoever, Frank confirmed. The only way she could sell it is if you were declared incompetent and she obtained guardianship, or if you signed over ownership to her. He paused, studying my face. You haven't signed anything, have you? No, nothing. Good. He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder with my name on it. Let me show you something. He spread out several documents on his desk. This is the deed to your house, showing sole ownership in your name. This is your will, which does leave the house to Amanda upon your death. And this He pointed to a power of attorney document, gives Amanda authority to make decisions if you become incapacitated, but it doesn't transfer any property rights. I stared at the papers, pieces falling into place. She thinks she has more control than she actually does. It appears so, Frank agreed gravely. Lucille, I need to ask this directly. Are you of sound mind and body, capable of managing your affairs? Absolutely, I said firmly. I have some arthritis, but I'm completely independent. I drive, I maintain my home, with some help for heavy tasks. I manage my finances. I have an active social life. Frank nodded, relieved. Then your daughter has no grounds for placing you anywhere against your will, but I'm concerned about their intentions. He helped me develop a plan to protect myself, starting with gathering all important documents, changing passwords on financial accounts, and setting up a security system in my home. We also discussed legal options if Amanda and Jacob escalated their efforts. Back home, I began a thorough search of my office, finding documents I hadn't reviewed in years. In a filing cabinet buried beneath tax returns, I found the original mortgage paperwork showing the house had been paid off for over 5 years. I also discovered photos of Amanda with the real estate agent she'd claimed not to know, yet taken at a community fundraiser last summer. The timestamps on the photos confirmed they had known each other far longer than she had admitted. My computer revealed more troubling evidence. Amanda had used my laptop during a visit and forgotten to log out of her email. I found correspondence with several nursing homes dating back months, inquiries about affordable options and minimum requirements for residency. There were also emails with the real estate agent discussing potential listing dates and necessary repairs to maximize sale price. Most devastating was a draft listing description saved in her documents: charming 4-bedroom colonial in desirable neighborhood, perfect for growing families, being sold to support elderly mothers' care needs. They had already written me out of my own home, crafting a narrative that made their actions seem noble rather than greedy. The next morning, I was startled by a text notification on my phone. Amanda had accidentally sent a message meant for Jacob to me instead. Mom seemed fine yesterday. Start mentioning safety concerns more often. Agent says if we list by June, we can close before fall. With shaking hands, I took a screenshot before she could realize her mistake. Minutes later, my phone pinged again. Sorry, Mom, ignore that last text meant for work colleague about a client. The lies were becoming more brazen, the deception more elaborate. But now, I had something they didn't realize: knowledge, evidence, and most importantly, time to craft my response. Over the next few weeks, I presented a carefully cultivated facade of obliviousness while working diligently behind the scenes. Frank connected me with Diane Miller, a reputable real estate agent, known for her integrity and efficiency. Your house is in excellent condition, Lucille, Diane remarked during our initial meeting. The market is incredibly strong right now. $890,000 is actually conservative. With your corner lot and the recent kitchen renovation, we could potentially list at $950. I nodded, a plan forming. How quickly could we sell if I wanted to move fast? With proper staging and marketing, we could have solid offers within a week, she replied. But are you sure about this? You clearly love this home. I do, I admitted. But sometimes you need to let go of a place to preserve its memories rather than have them tainted. Diane seemed to understand something deeper was happening, but maintained professional discretion. Within days, she had arranged for professional photos, created stunning marketing materials, and scheduled a weekend open house strategically timed when Amanda and Jacob would be away at a wedding. Meanwhile, I began quietly packing my most treasured possessions. Photo albums of Tom and Amanda, the antique clock that had been Tom's grandfather's, the quilt my mother had made for our wedding. Items no one would immediately notice missing, but that carried my heart's history. Maria and two other close friends helped me sort through decades of accumulation, deciding what to keep, donate, or discard. I told them the partial truth that I was considering downsizing, but hadn't made a final decision. Only Maria suspected there was more to the story, giving me knowing looks when the others weren't watching. "Whatever you're planning, I support you, hon," she said one afternoon as we boxed up kitchen items. "Just promise you'll be safe." "I will," I assured her, touched by her loyalty. The open house exceeded all expectations. 37 groups toured my home that Saturday, and by Sunday evening I had 5 offers, all above asking price. The winning bid came from the Bakers, a young couple expecting their first child. Something about Sarah Baker's gentle appreciation for the garden I'd tended for decades, and Michael's admiration of Tom's workshop in the garage, told me they would love this home properly. "We can close in 3 weeks," Diane informed me, clearly impressed by the speed. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" "More than ready," I replied with newfound conviction. The next phase required precise timing. Amanda and Jacob had mentioned a business trip planned for the last weekend in June. Frank confirmed through his contacts that they had actually booked a tour of vacation properties in Florida, clearly anticipating their windfall from my home. With the closing date set for June 23rd, I had exactly 1 week before their return to execute the remainder of my plan. I found a beautiful waterfront condo in a secure building downtown close to the art museum and my favorite bookstore. Using proceeds from investments I'd liquidated, I purchased it outright and arranged for movers to transfer my carefully packed possessions the day after closing. Frank helped me update my will, removing Amanda as the primary beneficiary, and instead directing my estate to be divided among several charities and a trust for education funds for neighborhood children. I kept a small provision for Amanda conditional upon her participation in financial counseling, a subtle acknowledgement of the materialism that had corrupted her. The final touch was the security system installation. Small, unobtrusive cameras at my front door and in the living room, not to spy, but to preserve the moment of truth that was coming. On the morning of their expected return, I placed an envelope on the front doorstep of what had been my home for 35 years, but now belonged to the Bakers. Inside was a letter and copies of the closing documents showing I had legally sold the property. I also left the keys. They would find still worked in the lock, but would open the door to an empty house stripped of everything except the furniture they had so clinically assessed for resale value. Then I drove to my new condo, made a cup of tea, and waited for the inevitable call. At precisely 4:37 that afternoon, my security app alerted me to movement at the front door of my former home. Through my phone screen, I watched Amanda and Jacob arrive, luggage in tow, tanned from their Florida sun. Their expressions were relaxed, confident, as Jacob slid the key into the lock. The key still worked, turning smoothly as it always had, but what awaited them inside was nothing like they expected. They entered with shopping bags and the suitcases, calling out, "Lucille, we're back." Their voices echoed through empty rooms where family photos once hung and furniture once stood. The camera in the living room captured their growing confusion as they moved through the barren space. "Mom!" Amanda's voice arose in pitch. "Mom, where are you? What's going on?" Jacob spotted the envelope on the floor where it had been pushed when they opened the door. "Amanda," he said sharply, picking it up. They huddled together in the empty living room, faces darkening as they read my letter. I had kept it simple and factual. "Amanda and Jacob, I overheard your phone conversation about sending me to a nursing home and selling my house for $890,000. As you can see, I decided to sell it myself, instead for $925,000. The new owners take possession legally tomorrow, so you'll need to leave by then. I've moved to a place of my own choosing. The furniture is yours to take if you want it. Mom." I included copies of the closing documents, the deed showing my sole ownership prior to sale, and printed screenshots of their text messages discussing their plans. Amanda's face crumpled, first shock giving way to panic. She knew. All this time she knew. She fumbled for her phone, dialing my number with trembling fingers. I let it ring twice before answering calmly. "Hello, Amanda." "Mom, what have you done?" Her voice was shrill, frantic. "Where are you? Where is all your stuff?" "I sold my house as was my right and moved to a place that suits me," I replied evenly. "I'm sure you can understand, since you and Jacob were planning to do exactly the same thing, just without my knowledge or consent." "That's not we weren't," she sputtered. "You misunderstood. We were only trying to help you." I watched through the security feed as Jacob paced the empty living room, running calculations in his head, realizing their plans for financial gain had evaporated. "Help me into Golden Sunset Nursing Home while you enjoyed the proceeds from my home," I asked quietly. "I heard everything, Amanda. Your exact words. Your plans for the Florida vacation property." Silence stretched between us. Through the camera, I could see the fight leaving her body as she realized the extent of what had happened. "Mom, please," she finally whispered. "We made a mistake, a terrible mistake. Let's talk about this." "There's nothing to discuss," I said firmly. "The house is sold. My affairs are in order. You and Jacob should leave before the new owners arrive to measure for curtains." "But where will we stay?" The entitlement in her question made my heart ache for the daughter I thought I'd raised. "That's not my concern anymore, Amanda. You're adults. Figure it out." Jacob grabbed the phone from her. "Lucille, this is completely unacceptable. We'll contest this sale. You're clearly not in your right mind." Frank had anticipated this reaction. "Actually, Jacob, I've been declared sound of mind by 2 separate physicians, and my longtime attorney has documented this entire process. The sale is legal and binding, but feel free to contact Frank if you want to discuss it further." More empty threats followed, accusations of betrayal that might have hurt if they weren't so hypocritical. Eventually, I ended the call, watching through the security feed as reality settled over them. They sat on the bare floor of the empty house, surrounded by luggage filled with Florida vacation clothes and brochures for properties they could no longer afford. The next morning, the Bakers arrived to find Amanda and Jacob loading furniture into a rented truck. Sarah Baker, visibly pregnant and radiating kindness, approached them with home-baked cookies and extended a hand in greeting, unaware of the drama surrounding her new home. I watched through the security feed as Amanda's face crumpled at this final indignity, having to make pleasant conversation with the people who would create new memories in the home she had tried to steal. By afternoon, they were gone, and I finally allowed myself to cry, not for the house or the belongings, but for the daughter I had lost long before I sold a single brick. The first weeks in my new condo were a mixture of grief and liberation. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the river, filling my space with natural light that seemed symbolic of the truth that had finally broken through deception. I arranged my treasured possessions thoughtfully, creating a new home that reflected my identity rather than my past. My new neighbor Dorothy knocked on my door the second day, introducing herself with a bottle of wine and an invitation to the building's book club. "We meet Thursdays in the community room," she explained. "Nothing too intellectual. Mostly mysteries and the occasional romance. Lots of wine, though." Her easy laughter reminded me of Maria, and I found myself accepting the invitation despite my initial inclination to withdraw from social connections. The betrayal by Amanda had left me wary, but I recognized the danger in isolation. The grief came in waves, usually in quiet evenings, when memories of Amanda as a child would surface unexpectedly. The little girl who had climbed into my lap after nightmares, the teenager who had thanked me tearfully after her college acceptance, the young woman who had clutched my hand at her wedding. Had all of that been genuine? Or had the seeds of calculation been there all along, nurtured by Jacob's influence but not planted by him? Frank checked in regularly, updating me on legal matters. Amanda and Jacob had indeed consulted an attorney about contesting the sale, but quickly abandoned the effort when confronted with the overwhelming evidence of their own plotting. "They've purchased a condo across town," Frank informed me during one visit, "significantly smaller than they'd planned. Jacob's apparently taken a second job." I felt no satisfaction at their financial setbacks, only sadness at the values that had driven their choices. What had I missed in raising Amanda that material gain could override basic decency and love? 3 months after the move, I received an email from Amanda. The subject line read simply, "I'm sorry." The message was long filled with justifications thinly disguised as apologies. She claimed Jacob had pressured her, that she'd been conflicted about their plans, that she'd intended to make sure I was comfortable. The words rang hollow against the evidence of her own voice in that phone call. I didn't respond immediately, taking time to consult with the therapist I'd begun seeing to process my grief and betrayal. Dr. Winters helped me see that forgiveness might eventually be possible, but reconciliation would require genuine accountability, not just regret at being caught. When I finally replied, my message was brief but clear. I acknowledged her apology, but noted that trust once broken requires more than words to rebuild. I set boundaries for any potential future relationship, beginning with complete honesty and respect for my autonomy. Amanda's response came quickly, agreeing to my terms with an eagerness that prompted caution. A coffee meeting revealed her true motivation. They were struggling financially, and she hoped I might help them with the proceeds from the house sale. The irony was palpable. "I sold the house to secure my own future," I explained gently but firmly. "The money is invested for my needs. I won't be sharing it." Her disappointment was visible but contained. Perhaps it was the first step toward accepting the new reality between us. As autumn arrived, bringing vibrant colors to the riverfront outside my windows, I found myself settling into a fulfilling new routine. The condo building's activities calendar kept me socially engaged, from morning Tai Chi classes to weekend art workshops. I volunteered at the downtown library, reading to children whose wide-eyed wonder reminded me of simpler times. Maria visited, often marveling at my transformation. "You seem lighter," she observed one evening as we enjoyed wine on my balcony. "Like you've shed more than just a house." She was right. The betrayal had been devastating, but the aftermath had forced me to reclaim my identity beyond motherhood. I was Lucille first, a whole person with interests, opinions, and value entirely separate from my relationship with my daughter. A surprise visit came in November, not from Amanda, but from Sarah Baker, now holding a newborn son. "We wanted you to meet Thomas," she said shyly, referencing the name they'd chosen, which coincidentally matched my late husband's, "and to show you some photos of what we've done with the house." Her phone revealed the images of my former home, transformed yet preserved. Tom's workshop now held a beautiful wooden crib Sarah's father had built. My garden flourished under her care, with new plantings alongside the perennials I'd tended for decades. They had painted and updated, but kept the character that made the house special. "We found this behind the basement shelving," Sarah said, handing me a small, painted rock. "It has your name and what looks like a child's handwriting on the back." I turned over the faded stone to find "Mommy plus Amanda forever" in wobbly letters. A Mother's Day gift from when Amanda was perhaps 8 years old, lost during a basement cleaning years ago. The sight of it brought tears, but not the devastating grief of months past. Instead, a gentle acknowledgement of what had been separate from what now was. "Thank you," I said simply, pocketing the stone. "Your family is beautiful, and so is what you've done with the house." As they left, Sarah hesitated at the door. "We're having a holiday open house in December. Nothing fancy, just neighbors and friends." We'd love for you to come if you'd like." The invitation touched me deeply. I'd like that very much. That evening I placed the painted rock on my windowsill where morning light would touch it, not hidden away with painful memories, but present as part of my history acknowledged, but no longer defining my present or future. The journey from betrayal to healing wasn't linear or complete. Some days still brought anger or sadness. But increasingly, I found myself looking forward rather than back, planning trips I'd always wanted to take, pursuing interests I'd set aside, forming friendships based on mutual respect and genuine care. Amanda and I established a cautious, limited relationship. Monthly lunches where we carefully navigated conversation around neutral topics. It wasn't the closeness I'd once envisioned for our future, but it was honest in a way our previous relationship hadn't been. The greatest gift of this painful chapter was the clarity it brought. I recognize now how I had enabled Amanda's entitlement through years of self-sacrifice without boundaries, how my identity had become so entwined with being her mother that I'd lost sight of being Lucille first. The house that had witnessed my greatest joys and deepest sorrows now belonged to a family creating their own story within its walls. My new home reflected the woman I had become, independent and resilient, no longer defined by loss or betrayal, but by conscious choices and rediscovered strength. Life rarely follows the path we expect. Sometimes those we trust most deeply prove unworthy of that trust. But I learned that betrayal doesn't have to define us, that starting over is possible at any age, and that the family we choose can be as meaningful as the family we're born into. Have you ever had to start over after betrayal, or discovered strength you didn't know you possessed when faced with life's unexpected challenges? Share your stories in the comments below. And if you found value in my journey, please subscribe and hit that like button. Remember that it's never too late to create boundaries. Stand up for yourself and build the life you deserve. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the courage to write your own next chapter, whatever challenges you might face.